Hello and welcome to another video. I wanted to say a massive thank you to begin with to Yoshimi Alto, who shared this footage with me. He was very generous with his time and shared this footage of his ranchu setup, his facility where he breeds. He competes, he's been breeding for about 7 years. He shows fish at a national level, and some of these fish, well, all of them actually, are absolutely amazing. They're really beautiful ranchu. So we're going to go around. We're going to have a little look at his setup. He's got lots of tubs set up, and he's been kind enough to share some information with me as well, some of his thoughts. So yeah, I know this is a busy time of year for him as well, because he shared this with me when there was lots of spawning going on. So again, just massive thank you for sharing that. And all the footage that's going to be shown is all from him, unless it states otherwise on the video. So I'll put that little kind of video credit at the beginning. But it's basically lots of shallow tubs. We're going to walk around, see the parent fish, as well as the young fry, and some feeding techniques as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this video, really. Now, this particular facility is, as I said, made up of a variety of different tubs that are raised off the ground. That's going to help a lot with water changes, something that I might do in my new pond that I'm thinking about building. But we can see here we've got it's all ranchu at this facility. He did explain to me how he built this facility, actually. There's some images coming up in a minute of that. So he started off with around 20 kilograms of gravel underneath the ponds, and the ground was leveled, sort of weed control was added, all of that. And it was all done by himself. He did it all himself as well, so that's a lot of work that you put into that. But if you're looking around this facility, you can see it's like a little oasis, really. I'd love to actually visit in person one day. He was really, really kind at sharing all this footage and talking me through what happens. But we can see there's some absolutely beautiful fish going on. We'll take a little closer look at those in a bit. But here's some footage that was shared while the facility was actually being made. You can see all that gravel laid out there in order to make this level for the ponds. And it's a space that's I believe where he lives, so it's a space that's going to allow him to go down and see the fish and tend to them every day. And yeah, I don't think I said this at the beginning, but it's a facility in Japan. He's Japanese, and he did talk me through. He's got various different plants as well. He's grown lots of different plants. He's got sweet potatoes as well, peppers, blueberries, there's strawberries on the go. So I'm not sure if he uses the fish water from the water change. That's something that I do in my garden, but you can see there's some really nice strawberries there being grown. So before we actually have a proper look at the fish, there's some shown here. Before we have a proper look at them, I thought maybe I'd put together a little piece of this video about different types of ranchu. I think I'm going to do a more detailed video in the future, but I thought I'd name a few different types. So we've got Osaka ranchu, which are kind of one of the earliest ones, and those are going to be, they have no dorsal fin, an open caudal fin, not a lot of lump development on the head, and it actually became extinct in World War II. There's also the Uno-K, and they tend to be a bit smaller, those fish. They take a bit longer for them to actually develop into show quality fish. Really deep colours still, and they also have a bit more wen growth around them. Now, these are not as big as the next one, which is the Koikike, the type of ranchu that we're seeing in this video. They're really kind of emphasised with a strong body, well-balanced tail, and they've got their really beautiful swimming style. So we can see here there's some being held up, and you can see the size of them against the hand. They are very big fish, but extremely well proportioned and lovely colour. So I'm going to talk you through a little bit of information about what the breeder shared with me in terms of the kind of how the year goes in terms of their spawning. So as he did also say that ranchu, they can be big mistakes happen in Ranchu keeping, and that could cost you your entire life's work, really. So it's really important that he pays attention to the fish as he's breeding. But they tend to wake up from hibernation in around February time, and spawn in about March. During that time, he uses a heater to raise the temperature of the fish from about 5 degrees to 25 by about 1 degree every day. And that temperature is maintained at about 20 degrees for 5 days after spawning, so they can hatch. And from the second day after hatching, he feeds them brine shrimp, really small brine shrimp. He has to hatch them quite a lot. And you can see actually here, he's feeding some egg as well, some egg yolk. That's something that you could feed if you can't get the brine shrimp, or very early on when the fry is really, really small. High protein, and there's a nice technique shown here how he does it. Pops it inside some kind of material. So this is another option to feed, basically, if you haven't got the small brine shrimp, and it's just at that very early stage when you're breeding the ranchu and the fry, or any goldfish fry, starting to develop. So he then incubates the brine shrimp for about 24 hours in a container, heats that to about 30 degrees and feeds continuously. About 30 days of that, feeding continuously. And during that time he changes the water every 2 to 3 days. Temperatures where he lives are still quite low in early March, so morning work, is quite hard, but he gets it done in order to produce the quality ranchu that he does. And his ranchu especially, or ranchu in general, are quite sensitive to water changes in temperature, so he's got to be really careful about that. Good water temperature, lots of aeration, and lots of feeding. They lay about 3,000 to 5,000 eggs is what he tends to get in a spawn. And after they've hatched, and lots of selection process, really at the end of it, you may only get 1 or 2 show quality fish that he can take to the national shows. Obviously the genes of ranchu are not fixed, so malformations can occur, and there's no guarantee that the right shaped fish will occur. So here we can see there's lots of brine shrimp, going for a lot of brine shrimp, as you can see, feeding that into the young ranchu pond there. But this work that he does, this continued work of breeding the fish, or selection process, continues into about when the national competition happens in Japan, and around November time. And he also at the same time manages the older fish, so the parent fish. And he describes ranchu keeping as a game where you gamble, your whole life to produce the ideal fish, which is something that I thought was really, quite profound, really, because he does take a lot of work for him to produce these fish. He said it's not just for fun, it's about enjoying the journey, mastering a path. And I just thought these fish are really high quality, so it's worth showing a few more bits of footage of these. Now he keeps these fish and does the water changes on them in quite a traditional way. So from the very beginning of ranchu keeping, they've always been really raised without filtration. So how we keep them in the UK, potentially in glass tanks with filtration, or in ponds with filtration, it doesn't tend to be how they're kept traditionally, and maybe some of the top breeders still tend to use the traditional way. You can see there's just air stones really in here, and heaters. So it's just simple, really, a simple setup with air stones, food, and it's really the skill of the ranchu keeper that lets them watch the water and see how the water is helping to groom the fish. So they may have multiple ponds that they fill up and wait for that water to become conditioned, or settled, so that they can add the fish to it. But they really do use water as a tool. It's a grooming tool, and water tends to be changed around sort of every 4 to 5 days. It helps to groom the ranchu, as I've said before. And one way in which it does is they can use fresh water to help ranchu swim more, and then they grow a bit more in length. And as the water gets a bit more dirty, they swim less, but they put on head growth. So that's one way in which you can see or think about how water would help with as a grooming tool. So this is just a short video really that's made up of clips that have been shared. I just thought it was really worth showing. These particular fish, the kokikai, are absolutely amazing fish. They look really good quality, and I know they are, like the way that they're kept. And I'd love to get my hands on some of them someday, have some of these really big top view Japanese ranchu. But this footage is something people may not often see, so I thought it was worth sharing, and luckily there was some sort of notes shared with me as well. And just wanted to say, some of these grooming techniques that I spoke about, the water changes, that's not specific to the breeder. That's sort of some research that I've done myself. But it's worth showing this footage of me talking sort of generally about how grooming can happen using those different techniques. But yeah, it's absolutely beautiful fish, really stunning. I've got a few more videos lined up, people that have shared some footage with me and shared some information as well. So I wanted to try and do a mixture of videos on this channel, not just of my own fish, but other people in the hobby that have been kind enough to share theirs with me as well. So if you like this kind of video and you want to see some more, feel free to subscribe, and yeah, hopefully I'll see you next time.